Hello, welcome everyone to the Spotlight interview series. I'm Jeremy Lambert, joined as always by Steven Jensen, and with us today, competing this Sunday in Tampa, Florida, against Impact superstar Josh Alexander. We have Karl Fredericks on the show. Karl, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. I probably should have called Josh an Impact wrestler. There's only one company that does superstars, from what I've been told. So apologies to Josh. Uh, Karl, how are you
I don't
feeling
know the
about
rules with
this
all
match?
that, so
What's that?
I don't know the rules with all that. So
People will get mad at me
I'm
about
just
it
a
now.
wrestler, you know.
So are you a wrestler, a sports entertainer, a superstar? What do you identify as, Karl?
I'm a rock star, man. That's what I am.
Rockstar. I like it. I like that.
I've been told by Mike Goldberg it takes a lot of energy to be a rock star. That is a Ronda Rousey reference. The night she lost to Holly Holm. Karl, you got Josh Alexander this Sunday in Tampa. I mean, you've shared the ring with a lot of big names. You're coming off a match against Christopher Daniels. In fact, how you feeling about going against Alexander this Sunday?
Man, there's kind of a lot to it. A lot on the line for me a little bit because these are just like with the Christopher Daniels match, opportunities that I need and I've been very hungry for because he is that compared to, let's say, this last year on Strong, very successful year for me. It was a good campaign, but I was lacking these big opportunities, these big matches. So same thing with the Christopher Daniels match. It was great. I'm very proud of it, but at the end of the day, I didn't get that win. So being hungry for these opportunities, you also got to go out and seize them. So Josh being undefeated in New Japan, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, on Strong, I believe, former X Division champion, the year he's had, and it's an opportunity to go make a statement. No different than Christopher Daniels. I think a lot of people probably didn't even know who I was, or people that were familiar, but that was a match that they wanted to go check out, and they saw a taste of what I'm capable of. And if I can go out and pull off a win here against Josh, then it's gonna be huge for me, and that's something that I really need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. For the fans here at Fightful, just a little background on you. We're talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling, obviously. I've heard you in the past refer to the LA Dojo as basically like your team. It's like a fight team. You treat it like a sport. What was it like training under Shibata? Because I'm such a big fan of his, and I can only imagine how difficult it was to train under him, but how rewarding it must be to kind of graduate through that and be where you're at now.
Man, it was all of the good, the absolute best hard things that you can imagine. The reason you're asking this question, it was an honor. It's been an honor, and luckily that's still, he's like our dad. So that's someone that's always looking to improve us in our own specific ways. But goddamn, was it hard, And then a lot of it too was just going back down to the basics of pro wrestling, and then rolling and doing jiu-jitsu for the first time, and then kickboxing, and then back to natural wrestling, in ways that I haven't since I was in middle school. And the first several months were just that stuff. So I think the rewarding stuff came obviously through the pain and the physical condition, because we got to a point. And I'm not there right now, I'll tell you that. I did not stay in this shit, but it got to a point where 500, 700 squats, things like that. Kids would come in for the camps, and Alex Clark and I would run the camps, and we would do what we thought were easy workouts, and we'd have one kid got rhabdo at a seminar, was pissing blood for a week just from lactic acid build in his quads.
Wow.
Someone always pukes, someone always quits, and I'm not, nothing. Especially, I will say this: every kid that's puked in the dojo, we have a puke bucket after the first camp. We didn't have a puke bucket. I think Shibata called it puke box, a little trash can. The first time somebody missed, but he cleaned it up himself and then went right back to the workout. And then everyone else has puked successfully in the puke box, and then they'd come back and finish the camp. But we were at a point where just these fucking ridiculous workout, something that you would have to pay me. If you wanted me to go do one of those workouts today, you're slipping me $100 minimum,
Yeah.
just for me to try. But that was normal, so we'd be for that time period. And trust me, man, just I think of it now and it kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety, but like just the amount of focus. And like when I, you said you listened to the interview I did with Shining Wizards, and I mentioned, I've done it a couple of times. I mentioned I used to be much more full of piss and vinegar, but that came from, I was waking up every day and beating the shit out of my roommates, getting the shit beat out of me by my roommates. We're doing these crazy workouts where, we're coming home afterwards, we're watching film with Shibata-san, as old as it gets, and then we're watching the current Young Lions, and we're sitting there, and it's like we're in the film room, like on a football team, and no different. We're watching film, and we're getting that feel from him, like, so like this is your competition. Like before we went to that first G1, it was like we're gonna go to Japan. You guys are gonna fight these fucking boys, and you're gonna beat these boys. And that was that whole thing. It was like we were well-oiled machines. Probably a bit of the human side up here was turned off for a bit. It's on now, but yeah, man, it was like it was cool though, because during that time, especially as a young lion, because of like the restrictions you have on like your real life, you're locked into that mode. So it was, you either you give in and go with the flow of that rapid, or you can try and fight it and cling on to whatever, but like the cool cling on to whatever bits of like your yourself or your personal stuff you want to cling on to. But for the three of us, we bought into Shibataism. We bought into New Japan Pro Wrestling. We bought into everything that was taught to us, and we've run with it.
What's going through your mind when he first makes the surprise appearance against Zack Sabre, and then has the wrestling match? Like, you're watching your mentor, and many people, I think himself included, are like, he's never going to wrestle again. And then you see him do this appearance, and then you see him do this match, and he says before the match, like, I'm going to take a bump. Like, you're not holding me back on this. Like, watching that from one, your perspective as a fan, and two, your perspective as like his young lion. Like, what's going through your mind when you see that?
Man, both times. The first time, I remember the Zack Sabre, the exhibition, because we didn't know about any of them, of course. That like that guy that everyone idolizes, that wrestler, that that quiet was like, that's him. Like, dude, like he just does what he wants, But it was really cool waking up. One of the rare occasions that you wake up and see a bunch of notifications on Twitter and things, and they're good. So that was nice. And so then it was like see everything that's going on, because usually I'll catch up, right? Like things will air at like 3:00 a.m. here, whatever. I like to go to the gym in the morning, so I'll 6 or 7 is when I'll get up, and then I'll watch the shows from the night before a couple hours afterwards. But it was exciting, man. So of course, went straight to my lineup and texting congratulations and everything. And then the Wrestle Kingdom match, and again, same thing, because it was with Rent, and that's someone, he's in the dojo. He's one of us, and watching that, the people's reactions, his reaction afterwards, and just because the match was fucking great. Match was awesome. So it was plenty of moments where I think where it would normally be like, you get that exciting, like, kind of chill down your spine when a cool spot or move, something cool happens, and you get that as a fan, that excitement. You react to it. Like, for me, everything was kind of like just rushes of like maybe little bits of tear, like the warm in my cheeks. Like I wanted to tear up a little bit, but it was all just good. Like it's probably one of the few times I've watched an entire wrestling match just with like a smile on my face, and I was just in my living room, 7 a.m. quiet by myself, just grinning ear to ear. So it was cool, man. It was special. And it was, coming from meeting him in 2018, thinking, something like that was way out of the realm of possibility at the time. And now, it's happened. I have no idea what his plans are moving forward, but I'm sure it'll be just no different than now, that his plans are going to be what he wants, whatever he wants. And he's going to do what he wants and what he can do safely. So it was special, man. And I think it was also, again, like with, everything going, half the roster stuck over here because of visas and things like that. And, we're still waiting to get that full New Japan, everything that we have, all of the big gun, every gun that we have in the arsenal, and put it out, put our best foot forward like all the other companies are able to do. I think it was something that was really big and added a ton of value to Wrestle Kingdom, obviously,
Yeah.
So it was awesome for him, for him to not only do that, because injury and everything, but then just here's a guy that's still stepping up for the fucking company. Like I think maybe people miss that part of it a lot too. So here's a guy risking, his health, not the most ideal situation, but that was huge for the company. That was huge for the weekend. So yeah, props to Boss Man. He's a man.
Yeah. I know you just mentioned that, a few years back, it seemed like out of the realm of possibility, given, the injury and all that stuff. Did you have any kind of inklings or hints or anything of like seeing him as often as you did? Like, were there moments where you're like, oh man, this guy's going to get back in the ring? Like, I know it seems like a long shot, but like he really wants to get back in there.
I know he was dying to so like our normal day, like he's not a standby coach. The only time he's standing while we're doing drills is if he's got one of those nice whistles with the button. He's got a few because he's broken a few of them, throwing them across the dojo and chewing our asses. But now it's funny because he has the one broken one and it's got like the weakest little like tweet whistle, and it's funny to all of us, him including, because like we remember the day he broke it. Like that was like the first real fucking time he came down. And it was a
what happened? Can you tell us what happened there? Like,
it was a combination. It was very, very early in the dojo, and we don't know like the cultural the do's and don'ts, essentially, whether it be as young lions, are just like the greedy. It's just like the Japanese way, and because things are very militant, the system, my guess is it's no different than like the way we do. Well, a little different because like we understand, Clark and I especially, like I get the military. My dad was a police officer, I have a criminal justice degree. Like I get, I played a lot of sports where this is the way the coaches are just, and I had great coaches, and you can't, because of that, like Shibata was never, other than being afraid of workouts, because they're hard, but like, you can't come down on me hard enough as a coach to upset me. You can't, like, that's just good coaching in my eyes. I get it. But I think it was just like an issue of instead of just telling us, we want you to, this is how you walk, this is how you talk, these things. It was like, like we had made all the mistakes first, not knowing. And then as soon as they laid the rule, as soon as we knew the spiel, once you got the spiel, we made sure never to, go make ourselves go through a day like that again. But then, yeah, it was, as simple as like, hey, this is how it's going to be. And and from there on out, but, where we go before
sorry. Like any hints that he might be actually returning.
Yeah. Every day, man, he blow the whistle for us to start our warm up. And then he's running around the dojo, shadow boxing, warming up, stretching, doing his own warm up. And then by the time we're in the ring doing our stretch, he's stretching with us. And then like with the workouts, he's either he'll do a lot of them to show us, or some days like, if we have a few hundred squats, he'll jump in and do the first few hundred with us and then walk away and no sell it, to like let us know, like, it's like, yeah, that's why I'm like, he's in charge for a reason, and he's not. And it was also like to get in there and like push us through, because he would do that like when you're tired, if you're tired, he gets down and he's doing the push-ups with you. Or I remember like my first camp, we're doing sets of like 100 lion push-ups and regular, just crazy thing, and he's like, I'm on the ground doing push-ups and he's standing over me, just pulling me up, giving me a spot so I finish every rep, like he was that kind of coach. And then go through his own full workout in the weight room after we're done. But yeah, like you see anytime there's like free ring, he's hitting the ropes. And then the wrestling, all the wrestling, everything he taught us, it was hands-on. And it was hands-on in the way, like, whether it be the submissions with jiu-jitsu or just takedowns, things like that. Like he'll show you the technique a little, you go through it, and then he'll fucking take you down. Or if we're doing jiu-jitsu, he'll tap you out to show you what this is the pain, this is the real shit. So he never stopped moving and staying. He's been in ring shape, I would say, aside from you can't be in full ring shape without, you can only do that through practice. But I mean, he was in the ring, moving around, training every day since I've known him. And then I've been out of the dojo, out of LA since December of 2020. So all of 2021, all the stuff that they were doing, so I had heard days here and there reports from the boys like, oh, Boss Man was a little froggy in training today, but it was always like they were few and far between though, it seemed, so like again, both of those events, like I had no idea, and you just see the announcement, and like the first one with Zach, complete surprise. When the announcement for the second one came, it was like, of course, it was still a surprise to see, but it was like, fuck yeah,
You've been part of New Japan Strong since really the beginning, when you guys were running and during the pandemic and everything. What's been your take on the evolution of the show, starting from when you guys were wrestling in front of nobody, and then now you're going to different venues, you're bringing in people like John Moxley is there now. Like, what's been your take on the evolution of the show?
Man, it's been such a pleasure and an honor to be a part of it from the get-go, because even the first attempts at filming out of the Ocean View Pavilion where we're used to, where our empty arena was, we did Lions Break Collision, I believe was the name of it. Yeah, so we did, and that was like that first episode. That was my first main event, was that, I believe it was like that tag match with Cobb and Rocky against Clark and I, and it was in my new gear. And then the next show was Cobb and I in a main event. So going from like that, those first episodes where it was literally the 3 LA Dojo boys, and then DKC was on those shows. DKC is actually the first person that I ever beat with my Manifest Destiny. But we had like these newer guys, these indie guys that we thought were like, Dylan had been in and out of the dojo a handful of times, camps and stuff, so it was like, just like the LA dojo, and whatever New Japan could get, like, hey, let's make the show, let's do this, let's get a product out. And then that, it was kind of like the dipping our toes in the water to what would become Strong. And then when we first started Strong, it was the same thing. It was like the LA dojo boys, the West Coast indie guys, and a lot of them were all friends of mine. So that's been really cool too, is finally getting to travel with guys like Adrian Quest. Like, that's like, I've known him for a handful of years, since my days on the indies, and I fucking love that kid, and he's one of the best super juniors in the world, if you ask me. So seeing my friends get opportunities, and then the show, it started like with that, and then eventually we get guys like Kenta, God over, and then I missed that. That was summertime, and then by the fall, when Moxley came in for the first time, and we started to get more guys like that, and it was still empty arena. But then, a year later, August, and I'm match one, there's a few thousand people. I'm outside the Coliseum, huge. I don't like the Trojans, but I'm a huge college football fan. So, that we go from that to back to touring, and we're hitting different cities, and we got a ton of exciting stuff. The cast is, the whole locker room has doubled, and we're doing nothing but exciting stuff in my eyes, and it's fucking cool, man, because I really believe that we're a completely separate brand at this point, from the main roster, and that's also because we're kind of exclusive on both sides, with the few senpai we've had run over. But soon enough, whenever everybody gets visas and things are fully back open, like I think it's going to be cool, because we're going to be able to take advantage of every bit of the roster. Like I said, use our full arsenal, so that maximizes creative opportunities, that maximizes the amount of excitement for the fans, and then with the doors open, to across the hall to all these other companies and things like that, like it can only go up from here. And I think the plan from the get-go was always to, turn this into what it is now and keep it, going farther and further. And that's the page that we're all on. And we're all very, very excited and hungry, and really want to turn this into something much bigger than anyone thought it could be.
A couple names you've mentioned a couple times on this interview are Alex Coughlin and Clark Connors. What does it mean to have their camaraderie, and what's it been like seeing their success as well? Because like all three of you guys have really been like kind of like rising the ranks together, it seems like.
Man, it's been, like I said, Clark was the first guy I wrestled in the dojo at my tryout, and we were just doing 5-minute, just go wrestle, no talk, no speaking, no talking. And from Alex was injured at my first tryout, but he was helping. It was cool because he was one of the dudes that like were doing like a CrossFit circuit. Luckily at the time, that was like my main mode of training. So I was like, oh, like day 2, I was like, oh, this is my shit, good, you know. So like I'm cruising through it, and he was like, you know, just being like the dude he is, and all, you know, whoever needs help, whatever. I remember like my first conversation with him was like during the workout, and he's like, "You've done this before, haven't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is the bullshit I like, you know." And he's put every 45 plate you can fit on a bar and pick it up a bunch of times, guy, you know. And I like wall balls and shit. And you know, going from where we were to being stripped back down to 0 together, and then, you know, especially Alex, Clark and I had a few years of experience when we came in, and Alex was very green, like less than 10 matches, I would say. And now he's phenomenal, you know, and he's still nowhere near as good as he's going to be, you know. And so between those two, Clark won that tournament in the last year, you know, and I think that's cool because, you know, I would like to think I set some sort of precedent for the LA dojo, and you know, being the top young lion, and you know, things like that, and moving on, and everyone's, you know, gone further and beyond, and that so much to the point where like I still, you know, like I said in recent interviews, it's like I feel like I've been kind of playing catch up, and like I've been a little stagnant compared to them, which is great though, you know, because having that team mentality, you know, like you got, if you don't fit in, you don't fit in. So the standard is greatness, you know, so it keeps me going there. And then the other one to mention is Gabriel Kidd. Between the three of those people, are Gabe, you know, when I met Gabe, he came into the dojo in 2018, and it was just the three of us, and he came and visited for about 2 weeks right before Thanksgiving. And he was, again, tons of wrestling experience, great wrestler, but he, you know, as far as for what we do, the workouts, or even things like his flexibility, you know, like the certain types of roles we do, think like he wasn't up to par on that. And then he left, he went back home, and in like 6 months, he lost like 50 pounds. You know, we weren't, because we didn't know him as well. So we kept up tabs, like followed each other on Instagram, whatever, you know, but I just remember seeing, like, we'd be on tours or somewhere, and I'd like show the boys, or Alex would be like, geez, you know, look at Gabe. We'd show Shibata-san, like, man, this guy's fucking, he went out and did everything he needed to do to come in. And by the time he came in, he's been, you know, nothing but excelling. And so just having a team of guys around me where that's the standard, whether it's the work, you know, the work ethic, or your output being that high and that good, has been amazing for me. Because, you know, you, like I said, if you want to fit in, you got to be like the boys, and that's awesome, and I love it. And then on the other hand, it's like those guys, we've been attached to the hip for years now. You know, now it's cool because we're like we're adults, and we're like the normal guys, you know, where we fly in and we get to hang out. But before, it was like, you know, all the young boy duties, loading the bus, doing the laundry, all the being up early in the you know, 8 a.m. cleaning every day, things like that. And then when you are having those bad days in the dojo, and you're going stir crazy because you're stuck in this little room with bunk beds, or you're missing your family, you go through a breakup, and like those guys have been there for everything, and half the time they're right there when it happens because, you know, attached to the hip. But yeah, like, you know, Clark's like my road wife, you know, and Alex is like the best of all of us. Alex is like you know, just the most clear thinker, go-to guy. Like it's like big dad vibes on that guy, you know? Like good, you know. Clark's like cool dad, you know. But yeah, like those guys, like that support system feels just as much at home to me, like the you know, my friends, super cheesy, but like, you know, my boys are just as much home to me as when I'm here in Reno and I'm with, you know, my best friends that I've known for over 10 years, you know. So now instead of having, you know, when I'm 16 hours away, instead of having to worry about, you know, oh, if I can call one of my boys, like I have my guys here. And it's been, man, we've been through some deep shit together, you know, and thankfully not even personally. Like I've had less wrinkles with these guys in worse conditions, being stuck and attached to the hip every single day. Whereas like some of my friends down here, like 2 days in a row, like I love you, but like I also love my space. Like a very reserved person, to be honest, you know, it's, two sides to me, obviously, but you know, like I don't know a lot of people I can spend that much time with, and you know, or like when I was on teams, like football practice, all that, and then you want to hang out, like, no, man, I want to go home and like sit down and like decompress, you know, and I just, especially as hard as things have been at times for me personally, like being overseas and things like that for the first time. That first tour was 5.5 weeks long, that first G1. And thank God I had Clark. I mean, there was days where like I went through a breakup and my uncle had passed away. I got news about my uncle passing away. Like I went like in like the first hour of my day one day. And then we had a show in Hiroshima that night. And you know, it was just a lot, like a lot of stress and stuff like that. So then there was like, and you don't really have time to like process, like, you know, I didn't have time, no time to, you know, to cry anything out that morning or deal with stuff. It was like I got in the ring with Okada for the first time that night. We had a 6-man, you know, so it was like, no, you got to go work. And then so then I worked and then did all the young boy stuff, and you know, had that whole show after the match where you're still working, you're seconding, and then it wasn't until, you know, 11 p.m. that night that I got to like sit somewhere and take my time, and Clark was right there next to me. You know, or on the train. I remember a specific train ride where I was having a real hard day, you know, and I remember, I didn't even notice him get up, but I was sitting behind him. It was a pretty empty bullet train, but a longer ride, and I was sitting there, you know, like sobbing a little bit, you know, like I said, you know, especially the thing with my uncle was having a real rough day, and then like he did it like 2 or 3 times where he just walked by and just sat a beer on my tray, you know, like didn't say a word. Maybe one time he like patted me on the back, but every time it was like, you know, same thing. Like I got like a chuckle out of it, and then just like having him there, like doing that little thing, like that turned my whole day around. Like that first beer turned into like, then I was like letting my shit out and just like feeling whatever, and like, you know, this is, you know, like that this is life, and I got my boy, like, and I don't even, if it wasn't for Clark being there, I guarantee this, probably if it wasn't for Clark being there present on that first tour, or if we hadn't clicked up the way we did, and then also done it a few times now for this specific story, but I got to give Rocky Romero credit too, because my contract ended the last night of the G1 that year, because it was a 1-year contract, and I didn't know if I could cut it, man. Like I didn't know, you know, being away from home was hard like that for that period of time. I'd never done it. Plus, it's a completely different experience as a young lion. And, you know, Rocky was someone that's like, man, he's like, this is the longest tour we do. None of the other ones reached nearly 6 weeks. You know, like it gets easier, you know, stick it out. And then having Clark there, if it wasn't for that, like, I don't know if I would have resigned, because it probably would have seemed way too hard, you know, and I would have been alone on that whole, you know, I would have dealt with all that shit alone. So.
You just mentioned Alex, Clark, and Gabriel, and you guys call yourself the Big Four, and I assume that's a take on the 4 pillars. Like, where did this nickname come from?
It came from, well, just the 4 of us have just been like, as far as the LA Dojo goes, like that original class is Clark, Alex, and I, and then Gabe was like this good in between, came in. Gabe was ringside for the whole Young Lion Cup 2019 when I won. So he's been on the team, and he just, when he finally got to go get in the ring and kill it and all that stuff, you know, we were stuck in the States and he was in Japan. So it's always been, you know, in our mind, like we're the guys in our class, in our generation, because we have that whole pretty big group of young lions, which is rare to be able to do that tournament. And yeah, man, we just believe that we're the fucking guys. And, you know, and you can't tell us otherwise. Not even so much to like like the pillar, it's just there's four of us, and we didn't want to be, of course, you get the horsemen and things like that, and the name comes from a spin on college football, something Clark and I came up with on a brainstorm. It's like might have been the first or second week of college football this year. Sat at a bar and just watched a bunch of football, talked wrestling, but just like the big conferences. You got the Big 12, the Big 10, and we're the Big Four. So those are the, aside from like the SEC, you have all these conferences, but like everyone knows Big 12 football. The Big 10, those things. So we think, in my mind, my description of it would be that you could line up any of your four guys from anywhere, but we have that, we're Shibata guys, we're LA Dojo, we're New Japan Pro Wrestling, what we've done to earn our stamps and our stripes is far different than anything anyone else has done, so you have your four, you can have your pillars over there, you can call yourself whatever you want, but we're the Big Four, we're it. So
yeah, I love that.
It's all that, for us, this is our, or I'll speak for me. This is my art. This is my career. This is my sport. But we're entertainers, and I'm a rock star. I was like, I always thought, maybe growing up, you want to be MJ, you want to be Kobe, guys like that. But I look at like maybe the way I played basketball growing up, who I am now as a person, as a wrestler. Trust me, like it took balls to walk in that, in or out of that New Japan locker room with, what most people would assume, my native earrings and my dangly earrings and the jewelry and things like that, but like I think I'm much more Terrell Owens and Dennis Rodman than MJ or Kobe, and I'm very much okay with that.
Yeah. You had mentioned, that you were on like the indie scene prior to going to the dojo, and I know you do a lot of stuff on the West Coast. I just wanted to get your thoughts on working West Coast Pro, because I love that promotion, and and I mean, I just want to know what it was like working out there.
Man, it was to be honest, it was amazing. That was the first crowd, the first group of people that got to see me in my brand new costume and everything, long after I had been in it, was that San Francisco crowd. And that's the same crowd. I remember going to that first show, just the reception I get when I go out there, because the Bay was like my home. All Pro Wrestling, Marcus Mack gave, he gave me a run with that internet title. I mean, I won it at the Cow Palace, and then I had it for about 7 months in that time. I wrestled. He fed me the fly-ins, and then I got to wrestle Jacob Fatu at the Cow Palace. I lost the title there, in front of a few thousand people. I got to wrestle twice in the Cow Palace in front of thousands. Like, San Francisco's my home. So then, having not been there since 2018, and then getting the reception I did, but I remember as soon as I walked out, I recognized every fan. Like, they are all the same people that had been watching me wrestle since 2016. When I was a heel, and they were booing me, not because I was a good heel, because I was a year and a half in the business. I had to earn the good heel reactions from them, and I they made me earn it, and now I have it, and that's my home, man. It's been amazing, and what they're doing now, especially because when I came up in 2015, being trained by the Reno Scum and being in the California territory. I remember September 2015, I went to my first WWE tryout, and I remember this one was a little more wrestler heavy. It had quite a few wrestlers, if I recall. I think the second one was the one that had more of like the models and ex-athletes and things like that. But I remember just being so salty because the other wrestlers, when they, we do our stuff, and I like to think I'm pretty good and showed a lot of promise. So they were, the other workers would ask me like, where are you from, man? Where'd you train out of? Where do you wrestle? I'm like, and I couldn't say Reno because no one, it's not like there's no shows or anything out here. So it's like, I wrestled, West Coast, Northern California. And like the look of disgust on their face, like, California, like, where do you wrestle in California? Like that. I took that as an insult. I came back home, and in 2017, it was the same thing. they were still kind, APW had doing good stuff, but I think the biggest flaw with them was like they weren't streaming, and they weren't putting like there's a whole ton of library stuff that's just not on the internet. And in pro wrestling, especially indie wrestling, if that's the case, it might as well have not happened at all, But with West Coast consistently booking these crazy like that's one of the best indie promotions in the country now, which means the world essentially, So for California, let alone Northern California, to have that, and to see the younger guys in NorCal, they're all, the opportunities they're getting, and now there's a school there too. So for me, like I have a ton of pride in the West Coast, and especially NorCal. Every shoddy little place I wrestled in, like that's I mean, all the territories have that, but it's important for us, outside of LA to have, especially like some sort of a home base, because now it is becoming like, big territory. You have Defy up north, San Francisco's that legitimate middle ground like it used to be. If we can get back to running major shows at the Cow Palace collectively, the way they do it, I imagine like Prestige, GCW's doing that LA Fights thing. You have Defy, there's a lot of opportunity to make that, a big thing again. I think it's so cool because, that's one of those things that like not as much anymore, and I don't have to. It's cool because we have, Brody King, Jake Atlas, Jungle Boy, Jacob Fatu, everyone, all of the guys from my class, we've all like branched out. We've kind of proven, we have enough proof that like, yeah, there's good wrestling out here. And then now the scene's thriving bigger than it was when we were active in it. I mean, it's only good because it used to be something I used to, whether it be just the West Coast wrestling, all that, because, I took a lot of pride in that because, I might have wrestled Jeff Cobb in front of like 8 people in Santa Cruz in 2016, but there was still 3 other people on that card that I know were going to go off and do things, and Jeff and I are doing pretty good, I would say. But yeah, it was something that I was always so salty about it because there was no love for the West Coast out here, and I felt like I remember I wanted to run angles. Like I would talk to Fatu after shows and just think of these creative things. And this was like indie wrestling was much less like cooperative at the time as well. But I was like, man, we need to show up somewhere on the East Coast on some like you ain't got no love for Death Row Records shit. Like
right.
West Coast shit. Like because I just know there's a story there. If you ask me, I think it's easy money. That's an easy invasion. That's good business if you ask me. Although I will say this, I have no interest in fucking booking or running or doing anything other than showing up to work and wrestling. So,
hey, I think it's also easy money.
If someone hears this and takes this idea, just give me some credit. Just give me like a little bit of love, and I'm happy.
Send the royalty check. It'll be good. Whatever they get off the angle.
Mention Fightful. Yeah, just give this interview a shout out, and like that's good enough for me because I don't have it in me. Shout out to everybody who tries to do anything in the business aspect of this pro wrestling. I mean, a lot of you guys shouldn't be, but if it wasn't for you, it wasn't going to be me doing it. So.
I do think that's easy money. I think that'd be a great idea. Another great idea that I think should happen is, Jacob Fatu just recently beat AJ Gray for that West Coast Pro Championship. And I think you and Fatu would be a pretty banger matchup over there. I'm just saying for that title.
I'm 0-2 and I need to get one back. And I know if I can get one back and I'm tenfold, I've always been good. I would like to think good enough, whatever. But, the guy that Fatu is standing across the ring from now is much different than the guy that he stood across the ring from and beat before, because now I'll wrestle Suzuki every day if you want me to. Is my body going to like it? Am I going to be enthusiastic? No, I'm not going to be enthusiastic about it, but this is what we do. We had it beaten into us for well over a year, 6 days a week. We're fucking killers in this dojo. So I'm ready to stand and bang with a guy like that. Whereas before, maybe it was only, it was me being faster, more athletic, maybe not more athletic because he does all kinds of crazy shit as well. But, like I don't have to game plan as much. Now I can go out and fight. So if he's got that strap and there's opportunities there, because I'm sure the boys, I'm sure Scott, people will hear this. So, I'm only an hour-long flight away. So
there you go.
You mentioned you see yourself as like Rodman, Terrell Owens, 2 Hall of Famers, by the way, 2 Hall of Famers. And maybe not so much Jordan, Kobe. You've shared the ring with guys who were considered Jordan, Kobe, and like Tanahashi and Okada. Was there a moment where you stepped in the ring, whether it was them or somebody else, maybe it was Suzuki, where you were in the ring and you're in the ring with one of these guys, and they either just they hit the shit out of you, or just before they even hit you, it was like, wow, like I'm really in the ring with one of these guys.
There's there's one clip I can think of. Everything else is all the matches from the G1. They were very, like I said, and then the person I was as a young lion. Like we went to Japan and we wrestled Shota, Ren, Tanahashi, it was Kenta, Clark, and I. And going in there, that was like real. Like we can't go out here and get handled, because then we're gonna come back to Shibata-san and we're gonna get handled again. Like we got, so everything was like, if you show weakness, if you go out there and you bitch out, any of that, if you show any of that, anything other than that fire, so it was hard to break that. But if it wasn't for I think commentary mentioned it, but there's a 6-man in there, and Okada gets tagged in, Clark tags me in, and I do the normal, I spring over the ropes, ready to go, but you can see me. I take this breath, and there's this look on my face that was much different than before, and I want to say commentary pointed out, because I didn't notice it at the time, but you can see 100%. I jump over, and I'm here, and my face turns from like the scowl to like, you can see me take a deep breath, and you can see me realizing, the situation. And like you said, there's, guys like that, Okada, Tanahashi, those once in a lifetime. They are the the MJs of the Kobe's of the sport. And then knowing, especially being a guy in the black trunks on the bottom of the pyramid, the food chain, and doing that. Those first times, I would say, with each of them was a very big, like, all right, let's see how good you are, because anything that I'm lacking, because they're this good. So anything that I'm lacking in between, that difference is going to be noticeable. So I think at that point, my biggest thing was just make sure that whatever points in between are, make as minimal as possible. But now, it's different. Like I said, I'm back to being hungry like I was, but it's coming from a very grounded place, and it's not that hyper focused pissing, like because I think just with my confidence, like I know who I am, I know what I can do, and I know what I need to do. So whether it be Okada, Tanahashi, or especially this Sunday with the walking weapon, like I'm at the point where I got to start getting wins in these big performances. They're good, good. Fighting well is good, but just like any other sport, if you don't win fights in that cage, entertaining or not, you only have a certain amount of entertaining matches that you're gonna get. And if you're not winning, shit. If you're not winning, you're not winning. That's it's simple as that, right?
Yeah. Is there anybody that you would, and you could name a few, you might have just named them as well, but that you would consider to be like the best people you've been in the ring with, or someone that it just hits you like I remember years ago hearing a CM Punk interview where he was like, man, I knew I was pretty good. And then I wrestled Eddie Guerrero and I was like, man, I don't know anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, something like that, where you're like, damn, there's like just serious levels to what we do here. And like, this guy's really proven it.
The first time that I felt that in my career, the biggest way was 2016, and I got to wrestle my trainer, Adam Thornstowe, one of my trainers from Reno Scum. And aside from them, I mean this all of my chest and all of my heart. It's one of the greatest tag teams in the world. They have been for a very long time, and Adam, they're both as singles wrestlers. I've yet to wrestle Luster, and that needs to happen eventually. But Adam, that was the first, like, you know, and I've wrestled guys like Okada and Tanahashi, maybe not singles, but I've touched every, you know, I've wrestled everybody, I've fought everybody, and to me, like, whether it be the smooth, everything, Adam's just as good as everybody that I get in the ring with right now, everybody I've been in the ring with. And then there's, you know, those GOAT levels, you know, Tana and Okada, like you can feel that, but I feel that every time I get in the ring with anybody on this company. And it's like, it's tough, man. Like I'm, you know, this is the political answer, but like I'm tough on these questions because like everybody's so
of course,
you know, like you get, or at least I would say, like you get to a certain level, you know, and I'd like to think that I'm at that level, you know, we're up in the majors here, but like everybody's so fucking good, you know, and I'm sure that, you know, and that's what I want too. Like I would hope, you know, I want to get in the ring with another athlete that I've never touched before and be like, fuck, that guy was good, you know, like, and then, cause you're going to, even if you might feel matched or whatever on the level, like I always learn. Like I always learn something and come out better on that end. But yeah, I work for New Japan. Like I'm so, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure.
There's everyone I touch, you know, it's world class. So
you've shared the ring with Rocky Romero, who I think is one of the more underrated performers. But on the subject of Rocky, is there anybody he doesn't know?
I don't think so, man. Because like even we were, he does the sliced bread, and I was telling him that one of El Chupacabras, one of the guys out, he does Hood Slam, a lot of NorCal stuff. He's been around since the Scum been around. He's somewhat like one of my mentors. My early days, he was in there a good handful of times, and I told him that. Whenever he does a sliced bread, it reminds me of Chupi because that was like the first person I saw do it. But apparently they had both gotten it from like the same, I can't remember who right now off the top, but they both pretty much stole it from like the same mutual friend, I guess, or like saw it and like said they were going to start doing it. But yeah, like Rocky knows, I mean, Rocky knows Scum. Rocky knows, I mean, he's the perfect guy to have as like our I don't know, is concierge, is that the word? Is that am I using
I think liaison, maybe?
Liaison.
Yeah. He knows everybody in every company. I feel like if you need anything, you just go to Rocky. Yeah, like, hey, can you get me in touch with this person? And Rocky's like, yeah, sure. Here's their home address and everything.
That's almost concierge, kind of.
Because of all of, kind of like yeah.
Like he gets you, you ask him like, hey, where do I find the good wrestlers that can help me? Oh, I'll tell you where they are. Yeah.
He's definitely, it seems like he's becoming that guy out like in his, because he's got so many, he's doing so many things. You know, he's got his hands in a lot of pots. So like in like entertainment and all the other like the media stuff he's doing, like I'm sure by now, like hey Rocky, if I wanted an agent or something, I'm sure he's one of the guys. Like he's the first guy I would go to. Or
he's
like,
doing NFTs and stuff now. He has an animated series. Like
he's a big Web3 guy. Rock. That I don't know anything about.
I don't understand any of it.
Yeah. But buy his pictures online and you can own them.
7 degrees of separation of Rocky Romero is what this is.
Yeah.
We talked a bit today about your three dudes, Coughlin, Connors, and Kidd. And is there anyone else you want to give a shout out to? Like maybe someone that you're seeing like kind of on the come up that maybe is kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Just some names out there that maybe some people should be looking out for.
Robert Martyr, is that how do you say?
Yeah, I like him a lot. Martyr. Yeah. He's like a Garcia protege.
Yeah, I've seen a few things and was already following him. Saw some good stuff, whatever. But then he wrestled Vinny Massaro this last week. So West Coast Pro again. Just this last weekend, forget the name of the show. The whole show is sick, but yeah, go watch that. Him and Vinny was fucking sick. And then I watched his match the next night, the Prestige match against a really good dude, bald, has the earrings in Dark Order.
Is it Prestige? Was it Alan Angels?
Alan Angels, yeah. I want to say, he was really, really. It was at Prestige, really awesome match. But Yeah, for Robert, I don't watch a whole ton of wrestling outside of, game planning and stuff like that. I, study my opponents, but very, very much on my me time when I'm outside of work. But yeah, I checked out his Prestige match because the Vinny match was good. And so, yeah, that kid's sick. I didn't know he was as young as he was. I think he just turned 21 or something like that. So
Yeah.
must be nice. I started when I was 25. So Robert Martyr's sick, man. I really like, his style and he's a wrestler,
Yeah, he won a pretty prestigious tournament in the South last year, the Future Showcase out of Chattanooga, that like affiliated with the SCI and Action and stuff. A lot of kind of the up and coming talent from the Southeast, especially.
Cool.
So he's been doing really good. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm really tapped into like the Southeast scene out here. And the shows you're referring to, if anyone wants to check them out and you want to know more about Martyr, it was the West Coast Pro and Prestige joint shows. They did Savage Mode. That's where he fought Massaro. And then it was Alan Angels, as real as it gets. So if you want to check that out. Shout out Robert Martyr.
And they're two very different matches, which was awesome to see. But yeah, both of them were bangers. So go check them out.
I want to move away from wrestling because I stalked your timeline and I saw you were watching The Bachelor, and I would just like to know why.
Oh, so... Well, I mean, I guess my excuse isn't going to sound much better than what it is. So, I live in a duplex, and one of my good friends, Kelly, owns my house, but she's a travel nurse and lives in San Francisco. So upstairs in the house is a buddy of mine. I have the whole downstairs apartment to myself, and she was in town, and we every now and then we do girls' night and we do face masks, and we watched it's a Cameron Diaz movie, like a 2002 rom-com. It was fucking funny. It was good. It was really good. The Sweetest Thing.
Oh, that's actually a very good movie.
I didn't know that it was like over the top and like, I didn't know it was
right.
I didn't know it was like a parody of itself as well. So I thought it was awesome. But so yeah, I wasn't watching The Bachelor. I went upstairs to have a girls' night and watch a chick flick, and my buddy was finishing The Bachelor. We watched that last like 30 minutes, and I can't believe it's real life. Like I can't believe this is a real thing that we do. And this girl literally stormed out. It was kind of tight. I mean, shout out to Homeboy. I mean, his life sounds stressful, but it's definitely not the way to be. But so one girl just it was like the final three. One girl just left because she's like, he had hooked up with two of the three, so she's like, look, I'm out. And then it's down to two, and then he went to give one a rose, and she's like, no, fuck that, I'm out too. And then the third one was like, wait, so does that mean I won? Like, what happened? And he went out and talked to the second one that left, like, yeah, look, I'm sorry that like I hooked up with them, whatever. Like I really love you too, essentially. And then the first thing she said, she's like, look, I'm not in the business of like competing for love. I'm like, you are strictly in the business.
You're on The Bachelor. It's literally your job right now.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, not to say that like I'm this enlightened dude by any means, but I see stuff like that. And I mean, it's just I think it's so bad for just our society. Like it's not good for our culture. Things like The Bachelor and the dating shows. But it's because like I watch it. It just seems so like I feel like I'm like a Simpsons character, and this is what like you would see on the TV. You know what I mean? Like it's like, hey, here's some stupid ass screwed up show that and like, but it's here we are. Like it's. I don't do reality TV as much as I used to, man. I think too much about this shit. So then I'm sitting there just like baffled. Like this is.
See, that's when you just gotta like turn your brain off. Because I agree, like it's terrible for like society. Like how can people like be like this and act like this? But if you just watch it and realize it's just all trash and just be like, man, I'm so glad I'm not doing that and I'm not going through that. And I don't have to deal with people like that. It's just tremendous. Like turn your brain off television.
Yeah, or like the other bad one. I mean, now that we're on to bitching about our culture and all that, there's like the podcast, and this kills me too. Like, being the alpha wolf and all that's like, every alpha podcast is like just the worst, most like this is embarrassing takes on women and men in society, like dog, like I wear women's jeans, dog, and women, I wear hoop earrings. Like this isn't, the alpha wolf Karl Fredericks. This isn't some macho bullshit. Like I'm a sensitive creature.
You just said you were doing face masks. Like you have girls night.
Yeah,
You're doing face masks.
Like this isn't like some macho shit. But then you say, like whether it be TikTok or YouTube, or there's like the Fresh and Fit podcast. Like that's the one that like where you said just tune out. Like you watch the dating show, you tune out and just like realize like thank God I'm not in, because it is like specific circle. Certain types of people.
Yeah.
Would but like the Fresh and Fit podcast, like it's just this wildly fucking misogynistic takes on things, but they're in Miami and they always have like a panel of women on the show, guests, but it's pretty much talking like specific like club crap, and I always have to tell myself, because I'm like, no, these are the fucking worst takes. But then I'm like, okay, well, you're also like, you're speaking of like this club crowd and the values are much different, like on that. So like, I'm like, I have to separate. I'm like, I don't even live in that world. It's like, I don't come across people like that. So like, that's not the dating world that I have to deal with. So I can step back and do that. But I also I'm much better off because I can't turn my brain off to enjoy stuff. Like I would have never watched that 30 minutes of The Bachelor if I didn't have to. And then my friend Kelly did even she wanted to watch like the recap episode. She was like, oh, do you want to just watch this? Like, no, I want to watch a fucking movie. I don't want to watch this. Get these people off my screen.
Yeah, that's so funny. I'm the same way as you, Karl, where like when I watch that kind of stuff, I'm just over analyzing it so much. Where I'm like, why are the people like this? Why do people want to be people? Or want to be like the people that they're seeing here? And it sends like this weird message to society of like, you want to strive, like this is making it, like what you're seeing on TV. So you want to be like these people, and it's like, no, you don't.
And it stresses me, like for all the. Just for the reasons, like I said, I've become much more reserved over the past 2 years. Like I didn't understand how many followers I had on Twitter after being to Japan like I had, but I had like 10,000. I didn't know it was going to be like, I didn't know that was a lot, but like I deleted that Twitter because I was just, it was a mental health. I needed the break, and that's why I still, I'm very limited. And when it's either posting just as the dude more often than not, and then I plug my wrestling and I interact with my wrestling fans, and that's it. Like nothing over the top. But then it is like I see, and I have a niece that's a sophomore in high school now. And I've cut little cousins that are they're in 8th grade and they're going to be playing football, freshmen, little freshman boys next year. And I just I think about all the stuff like that we think is important, or what or like what to aspire to. And it's just like, it bums me out because a lot of it just seems like it's like fame or just followers. A lot of like people want followers, but then like there's no end game behind it other than like that means people like me, maybe
Clout.
Yeah, or like I don't know, just the more. And I used to put much more stock into things like that. Like if 2 years ago, knowing that I had 10,000 followers and now only have like 4, like that would have been like, I would have been something that I'm like, oh, got to get back to 10. Like for what? For fucking what? Like, of course, if I have more followers, that's good. That's better for my, my business. That's good. I want, I'm not saying don't follow me. I am saying don't add me on Facebook, but like that shouldn't be, like that will come with the work, as far as I'm concerned. And that's like the least. I don't know. None of my heroes had to do that shit. And if I'm, just as good as any other, entertainer or attraction or athlete, like I don't need to do that to sell tickets. So, as long as, I'm worried about my work and I'll sell my fight here. Like I'll sit and do interviews all day long. I've no problem with the social interaction and things like that. But yeah, just the social media. And then I think recognizing, like, again, because maybe it pulled those negative like outlooks out of me, where like I was more, putting much more weight into it than I should have. And now I just think very differently. I'm also, I turned 32 in July. I'm a much different person than the kid that signed with New Japan in 2018.
And the clout chasing, as people want to call it. You make a good point. You brought up your relatives, like they're doing this. Like some of them might care, but for me personally, it's like, all right, you have all these followers and stuff, and then I've got essentially stepkids, and like they don't care about any of that. They just want to play like cards with me. And it's like those are the moments where you realize, like, all right, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. Like these are the moments that are actually important in life. Is like what's going on right here of playing cards with the kid or going to your niece or nephew's like football game, something like that. It's like they don't care about all this clout chasing and stuff. Like you got to value those moments.
And I think of it the same way as like, like in my little bubble, like I'm from a tiny little town. So like it's not like tiny. We have one stoplight. And like one of the oldest and one of the only still like functioning round, like the architecture is a round courthouse, and it's like dead center in the middle of town, very, very, very old little town. And so like I'm probably the most famous person to ever come out of my town, like in my little bubble, or like even like being here in Reno, like the more time goes past, like I'm like becoming the more, in my own right, somewhat, the famous friend. And like my niece sees all that stuff. She follows me on Instagram, and my nephews and my cousins see all that stuff. So like just taking that into account, so if I look like I'm living and breathing for it, like what example does that show them? And then I can't imagine how hard, like thank God that I think I was probably 16 when I first got MySpace. I didn't have Facebook until I was in college. Like, so I had that first half of my year of my life where I was, I didn't have to work, because social media and all the bullshit that these kids have to go through, like cyberbullying, all that shit's real. Because especially when you're a kid, like your social life is your whole life. That's all you have. That you have home, school, and your social life. So like those apps and all the stuff that they come across, like, like it's gonna affect them. Growing up reading wrestling magazines all the time affected me. You know what I mean? Like that's a part of your diet. The stuff that you're scrolling, that's the stuff that you're feeding yourself. So again, not to say that I'm some enlightened human being by any stretch of the imagination, but like I just really, in the last year and a half, 2 years, try to be more conscious about like the message I'm sending to like my family and my friends who might just really like the Kardashians and really and I'm like, man, like don't look up to those people, like there's look up to your friends.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, I'm 33. Jeremy, you're the same, right? You're right around our age.
Yeah. So we're
So we all have that same experience of like life before social media, and then like it all hitting us right around like the end of high school, the beginning of college, and that all said, Karl Fredericks _ on Twitter is where you can find Karl Fredericks. But and I was so confused today because I was like, I know I follow him on Twitter. And then I didn't. And I was like, oh, you deleted the last Twitter. I was so confused.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. That's even worse. I was like, I fucked it. I should have just muted it. But that's how I was but I mean, dude, summer 2020 was not a good space for fucking wrestling Twitter or just life and just anything in general. And then, when shit hit the fan with wrestling, and then it was like, nah, nope.
That's not a bad idea, by the way. I think a lot more people should unplug from social media, at least for like some times. Just take some time off. And like, I know everyone's joke is always like, go touch grass, but like, that's like true. Like it's amazing how different people act on social media versus in real life. I've met so many people in real life that were so much more like calm and reserved and just like cool people. But like on Twitter, they were like angry and complaining about everything. And it's like almost like two different people. And it kind of goes along with what you were saying, just all like the weird like pressures of social media and like the bullying and like looking up to the Kardashians and stuff like that. And it's just like, yeah, it's strange. We're in like a really weird position at our age because we had like the before times and like the current times, and we got to be like hip enough to like ride the wave of the future too, so we don't get left behind. So we got to kind of deal with this stuff too. But it's a weird balance.
And it affects you, man. I can't imagine if I had grown up with this my entire life. Like, isn't that a Black Mirror episode as well? Like your social score, like it's that type of thing. Like that concept's like that's a real, that blue check is a status symbol. Like I understand that, I recognize that, but I don't fucking care. If I have like I'm down. I want one, cool, but like I don't like. A friend of mine had recently been talking about it, in that sense, but then had, the way that they like the amount of stock they put into it was like, well, people aren't going to take so-and-so seriously unless, blue check. And I'm like, well, that's where I check. I'm like, that's where I like that. But again, like that took me, I had to find my ground and my perspective with all of this. And that was with the wrestling too, going fucking crazy balls to, like it started to wear on me, and I'm happier, healthier, wrestling just fine, I would say, but it's all of that extra stuff that comes with our business is like the stuff that I think where people have those struggles is you got to figure out who you are in the space and who you can be, because, I can talk all the shit. I can do, I can get on there and get that momentum, the extra, all the stuff. Would it be better or could it be beneficial if I did it? Of course. But the way it would affect me here, not worth it. So like I think today, like that's something, and I see people mention on Twitter too. I think it's a great idea. That should be a part of like your wrestling training is your, whether it be how to handle yourself in the business or just to like warn people about, all the like the pressures, whether it comes to social media and things like that. Because not only just searching all those other things, like it becomes very easy to start comparing yourself to others or, get down on yourself and things like that. And end of the day, man, like your whole journey and all this, everybody's timelines, roads, it would be this massive, crazy, living, breathing thing. So, and it's hard for us not to think linear. Like I started here, I should be here. And that's not how anything works. So that when you see all of this happening over here, and maybe you read too much negative shit online already, so you're in a bad headspace, or maybe you went and found a bad comment, so you're in a bad headspace, then you're seeing good stuff other people are doing, and if you're not doing these things with your feet on the ground and with, your perspective, being able to, separate the two, and stay on one side of the curtain while peeking through or something, like I think, it's for some, like it could be a slippery slope, or just, like I said, that's why I don't do it. Like if that was me, like if I spent, like my DMs are full on and that's my friends, my family, like on Instagram, Twitter, like unless it's business and I got to get to it now, like I check my phone. If I have to post, I post real quick and I leave it, because if I stay too long and see something I don't like, that's the rule now. It's like if I scroll, if I see one thing that makes me go, that's probably a me problem, because this is just my opinion on whatever it is, so it's like, well, why would I sit here and digest a bunch of shit that makes me go, so like the first thing I see that I don't like, whether it's my fault, whether it's on me or the content, sometimes I get like 3 minutes in, I'm like, oh, that was a good 3 minutes, and sometimes it's one swipe, like fuck, but that's the internet. That's the world we live in now, huh?
My last one here for you, Karl, and it is: what is the coolest thing you have in your room?
I like this has become a thing for us.
Yeah, now people are like gonna have to like get up. Sometimes it's like right behind them. Sometimes they got to get up and get something. There we go. Okay, what you're gonna have to explain this.
This is Annabelle. It's my Annabelle doll.
Oh, okay.
She sits literally right next to my bed where I sleep. I love the if you've seen the Conjuring movies or any of this, the warning: positively do not open. My favorite thing is the door doesn't
shut. It doesn't.
And then I think the coolest detail, or did I lose it already? Yeah, I must have. I used to have. It came with at least the little note that said "Come find me," like the hide and seek note that like the dad and her were playing in the beginning. But yeah, my brother-in-law got me this for Christmas last year. Yeah, my room pretty much has. I've got the only like I don't have a lot of objects. Like I don't own stuff. So like if I wanted to move tomorrow, like I could just sell my bed, just throw my clothes in my car. I have this, a few pop dolls, a guitar, and my DJ gear, my laptop. So like that's it. This is like one of the only like things I own, I guess. Definitely the coolest in my book.
Very
That
cool.
is pretty sweet.
Very cool. I always end on this question. It's the most generic wrestling question ever, but I'm always genuinely interested to hear the answer. As a wrestling fan, what is your favorite match of all time?
I was so fucking convinced that Jeff Hardy was going to pull that belt down when he wrestled the Undertaker. And like be like that age, I was like 12. And I remember that was such a good time. Like I remember like Eric Bischoff came back on my birthday. Like my birthday was a Monday, and I remember like sitting like that time was like so. Like I remember those Monday nights, like those episodes with Raw and SmackDown more than I do everything leading up to like WrestleMania 17, I would say. I was 10, give me a break, and I was a WCW guy. So like the invasion was fucking sick as far as I thought the invasion was cool. Like because at least like because I had been watching WCW until the ship sank. So like Stasiak, O'Hare, I knew all those guys. So at least they were like I recognized them. Like it was cool to me. So I remember and then again at the age of 12, I was dead certain. I was like, trying to tell my parents, like, I need to see Survivor Series. Like, there might not be a WWF tomorrow, Mom. Like, this is serious shit. But I was so convinced that Jeff Hardy was going to win the strap that night. Like, and I was like, genuine. I had been excited for plenty of matches, but like, I think that was the first time that like, any type of hope that when it got pulled away, like genuinely made me sad. I was like, fuck, because at that point I was old enough to know they fucking got me. I was like, because I was like, this is it. It's finally happening. Tonight's the night. It's gonna be the best night of my life. And it never happened.
Man, I feel you too. I was a WCW kid, so like I was familiar with all these guys, like above average Mike Sanders and all these dudes. Like they were the ones who came over. So like I was having a good time because they were my guys from WCW. I was a big Billy Kidman fan,
bro. And that was like after he had he came off of those championship runs. Like, and I was all the way here for Booker T when that thing happened. Because like Harlem Heat was always the coolest. So like that was there was more than enough for me, and then I didn't think until, you look back, you watch any of the documentaries, and then of course they do name 10 other major superstars that weren't present at all. And like, yeah, okay, maybe that would have been better, but
Yeah.
Karl, let the people know where they can find you at. Not Facebook. Nobody follow Karl on Facebook.
I mean, you can find me on Facebook, but it'd be a lot cooler if you didn't. Twitter and Instagram are Karl Fredericks _ and TikTok as well. That's going to be like mostly music content. That ball's getting rolling soon, but yeah, follow me on TikTok. I might fuck around, and one day if I like the internet enough, I'll on that day in that moment you might see a dance or two. Probably not. Hopefully not. But yeah, I think those are the big three. Karl Fredericks of the big four.
Karl is in action this Sunday in Tampa against Josh Alexander. It'll air at a later date on New Japan Strong, which is on New Japan World, 8:00 Saturdays. Karl, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and good luck against Josh Alexander on Sunday.
Thank you.
Hope you guys are enjoying this interview that Steven and Jeremy are doing with Karl Fredericks. Man, New Japan was put in a unique position due to the pandemic, and it effectively forced a brand split, and it forced some more content by the way of New Japan Strong. But no matter where you are, Japan, US, NordVPN.com/Fightful has you covered. Now they've got you covered with that threat protection. Free with that Fightful code, in addition to 1 month free, 73% off in the US, and threat protection helps you with malware, blocks online trackers, and blocks annoying pop-up ads. Not only that, it avoids geo-blocking, it avoids price discrimination, all that stuff, and it works on all your devices. Phone, tablet, PC, laptop, your TV even, all over the place. NordVPN.com/Fightful has you covered. Change your virtual location with just one click. Thanks to NordVPN.com/Fightful. I use this every single day You get a huge discount. You can buy pay-per-views from services overseas that are way cheaper than here domestically. You'll end up saving money when you subscribe to nordvpn.com/Fightful.